Hey guys, Hannibal the Rising here, and I'm just coming to you with a video that is purely meant to come up with ideas that should and possibly could be in Left 4 Dead 3. Now, these ideas originally aren't mine. I just took what other people have thought of and I added my own thought process to it on how they could possibly be. So I basically just took some pictures off of Google to give an image of what the special infected did that I'm thinking of, and I'm going to give you details on them on how I think they should play out. So let's see. The Breeder. Similar to a Boomer in its ability, it is a support unit. Its primary attack is that it spawns 2 common infected every 0.4 seconds. Its secondary attack is a tentacle whip that does 6 damage from up to 8 feet away, so it's a ranged attack. Its health is 360. Its speed is fast, like a hunter or a charger, but if it's breeding, then its speed is greatly reduced down to about a boomer speed. Also, if the breeder's in a spawn cycle, that means you cannot get a boomer in that spawn cycle, since their abilities are so similar. Its strength is that it's able to spawn an infinite horde if it's out of plain sight, so you can harass survivors with it pretty much as long as you want, as long as you keep it alive. And you can also swing at them with your tentacles from rooftops as your breeding horde, which is a good harassment type unit. Its main weakness is that if you set it on fire, you might as well get it killed because it won't last very long for breeding before you burn out, and then it becomes dead from the fire. The Worker. He is a giant brute. His primary attack is the backup call, which draws in a small amount of common infected. It has a 20-second cooldown. What he does is he hits a button on his radio that makes a noise that draws in a dozen common infected to help him out. His secondary attack is the Drill Smash. It does 14 damage per hit, and he can attack once per second like all the other infected. His health is 1100, he has a lot, and in a sense you could consider him a mini tank. His role is a support unit because he does not in-cap the survivors, he just harms them with brute force. His speed is very slow, only a little bit faster than a Boomer, so he needs to be close to deal his damage. His strength is that he has a ton of health. He can summon a dozen infected to absorb some damage for him, and he cannot be shoved back. So what he can do is tank a lot of damage for his team, as well as dish out a lot of damage if the situation is right. His weakness is that he is very slow, and he is extremely big, so he's very easy to shoot, especially from afar, so spawn him in close. Haggard. His primary attack is the Spike Impale. What he does is he grabs his enemy on the spot and he impales them once per second, which does 10 damage per second. If he happens to be released by killing the survivor or being pushed off by a Boomer, he has a 15-second cooldown when released. His secondary ability, he actually has 2 of them. The first one is the Claw Swipe, which does 5 damage per hit, or if you hold right click, which would normally swipe, but if you hold it, he will pull a piece of metal out of his body, and you can launch it at the survivors like a spear. It also does 8 damage on impact, but there's a 5-second cooldown in between throwing pieces of metal at your opponent. He has 460 health. His role is an in-capper. His speed is between moderate and slow, so it would be ideal to ambush around corners with Haggard. Advantages: he cannot be shoved. He can harass with ranged attacks, such as his spear, so he can be an in-capper as well as a harassment unit. His disadvantages are that he is very slow, and he usually needs to ambush around corners at very close distance. The Screamer. He is alerted the exact same way as a nighttime witch. except instead of chasing a survivor to incap them when enraged, he lets out a scream that has the exact same effect as setting off a car alarm, and draws in a horde for a certain period of time, the same as a car alarm. He is dealt with the exact same way that a witch is dealt with and must be crowned. He has 1000 HP, and after he screams, he takes off, and he is never seen again. He is the male equivalent to a witch, and I believe he should be in maps 50% of the time instead of the witch, which would make things interesting. Believe it or not, I believe the main boss should remain the tank. Coming up with another boss that would serve the same purpose that the tank does would be difficult. You could of course come up with another type of room monster that has the same effects as a tank and plays the same role, but ideally I would just keep the tank. Does 27 damage with his punches, he does 27 damage with his rock throws, 6000 HP. His strength is that he has lots of health. He can knock survivors down with a punch. He can harass with rocks. He can absorb a good amount of damage, and he can also use objects in the environment for incaps and kills. His weakness though is fire, melee weapons, and tier 2 weapons. Now I love Left 4 Dead just as it is, but there is a few minor details I would like tweaked about the Infected. Just a few minor details. I already think it's pretty balanced, but just a few minor things I'd like to nitpick at that I'd like changed about the Infected. Now for the Charger, there isn't too much I'd want to change about him. What I don't like is when the Charger is knocked off of a survivor that he has been slamming, say he's already charged and he's slamming them. Say Boomer comes in, he gets popped, knocks the Charger off, the Charger's charge is instantly ready, but for the Smoker for instance, when his tongue, right when he gets broken, his cooldown starts. I feel it should be the exact same way for the Charger, so right when he's knocked off, that's when his cooldown charges. And I feel that would balance it out a little more. The Charger is already powerful enough with his ability to knock down an entire team. I also feel his secondary punch should be changed from 10 damage punch to 8 damage, so it would make the Worker look more significant in his melee damage. There actually isn't a whole lot I'd want to change with the Jockey. There's just a couple things I'd like to point out. If the Jockey pulls somebody off of a ledge, say on the map Dead Air for instance, he's climbing up the pole, and by the time he gets to the top, his meter is already recharged and he can pull another person right off that's trying to pick him up. I feel that's overpowered because I've actually ended a team by myself before just by pulling the one guy at a time off the ledge, climbing up the pole, and then grabbing the other guy, pulling him right off the ledge instantly. And I feel that's way too powerful. Another thing with the Jockey that's underpowered is if you're riding a survivor for a little while and then incap him, the cooldown on the meter is like, it's huge. It's like waiting for a Boomer to recharge a vomit. I feel that should be reduced to about at least 18 seconds before the Jockey can incap again. Now with the Spitter, there is one major change I would make to the Spitter. The Spitter does close to 80 damage if you're standing in it for the full duration. It's weak at first, and then it grows to a very high damage the longer you're in it. What I would do is I would change the Spit to doing 1 set damage for the full duration. And it would be 7 damage per second while standing in the Spit. It wouldn't be any weaker or stronger. It would just be 7 damage. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, and keep it that way. Not that it's weak at first and then gets stronger. I feel it should just be 1 set damage. That way they're punished for sitting in the Spit, and they take 1 set amount of damage the entire time. I honestly hope they make no changes to the Hunter. He's perfect as is with his high damage pounces, his 6 damage swipes. It's all great. I love it. I think the classic Smoker is also fine as is, and I would not wish to see any changes made to the Smoker. It would be nice to see the Boomer get a little bit more damage on his swipes because they only do 2 damage, but I think he's just fine as is, and I do not wish to see any changes made to him whatsoever. We love you, Boomer. I believe the Witch to be a great special infected. I'm satisfied up to a certain degree with the Witch. I mean, the concept is great. I don't think she's overpowered or anything like that. The only thing that I dislike about the witch is when she runs off and does nothing after setting her off, and she can be very useless sometimes. I just think they should fix the AI of the witch a little bit, and other than that, I see absolutely nothing wrong with the witch. I love it. Classic Left 4 Dead 1. The only thing I would change to the tank is the stupid ass spawns that they have for him. For example, Dead Center Map 1, when the survivors are on the higher floors and the tank spawns, he's below the elevator and he cannot possibly get them, and all the survivors have to do is wait until the tank eventually dies out. And there's no tank battle at all. I think it should either spawn after the elevator or not spawn at all. And there's also difficulties in other maps, so I'd rather see that planned out a little bit better with the tank spawn. So the survivors actually have to fight the tank, or if the tank can't get to them at all, there should be no tank spawn. I think that'll conclude my ideas for Left 4 Dead 3. The new infected I would want, balance changes that I believe should be made. I haven't even gotten to the survivors yet. I just think they should pick 4 cool new survivors, with their own theme. Have new guns, etc. for the survivors. New throwables, new usables. I would love to see what map concepts they come up with. I love the maps that they make. And that's about it. None of these ideas are, like, the balance changes are my ideas. But the infected ideas are just pictures that I got off of Google. None of it's official, just, my idea, just a casual player. I love the game, I'm a big fan. I cannot wait till Left 4 Dead 3. And thank you for watching, guys. Subscribe if you'd like. I have a lot of LOL pub videos that I make. They're really funny. Just hilarious things that happen in Left 4 Dead. And that's it. Thank you for watching.